The twins require a maternal presence exactly like yours. Do you truly believe that? She stepped onto the platform harboring a flicker of hope for a fresh beginning, only to have the entrance barred against her. Just as the shadows of despair seemed ready to consume her future, a rugged cattleman leaned in to utter a phrase that would alter the trajectory of her life forever. The midnight breeze drifted listlessly through the hollow corridors of the railway terminal. Dim, aged bulbs sputtered erratically above the fractured stonework of the floor. Near the final weathered timber bench, a weary young woman stood in the gloom. Her name was Aara. Though her overcoat was frayed and her fingers were numb from the biting air, it wasn't the external chill that pained her. The true ache was deep within her chest. A mere 60 minutes prior, she had been convinced that a welcoming family was waiting to embrace her. Now, she was left with nothing but the silence. Aara cast her gaze downward at the modest valise resting by her boots. Its contents were meager, a few changes of attire, a sepia-toned photograph, and a letter she had read until the ink began to blur. The correspondence had originated from a household in the frontier settlement of Red Hollow. They had given her their word of a roof over her head, steady employment, and the promise that she would finally find a place to call her own. Yet, upon her arrival, the threshold remained closed. The matriarch of the estate had stared her down with eyes as cold as flint. "You are not the person we anticipated," the woman had spat. Those biting words continued to reverberate through the chambers of her mind. Aara had attempted to inquire about her failings. She had tried to express that she had endured a grueling 2-day rail journey just to reach their doorstep, but the heavy oak door had slammed shut before her explanation could form. Defeated, she had retreated to the station. Now, she stood isolated beneath the sickly amber glow of the lamps. The final locomotive had long since departed the tracks. The subsequent train wouldn't pull in until the break of dawn. She was utterly adrift. Aara lowered herself onto the hard bench with agonizing slowness. Her eyelids stung with the pressure of unshed tears, yet she held them back with fierce resolve. Years ago, she had made a solemn vow to herself: she would never again supplicate for the world's mercy. Nevertheless, the profound stillness of the depot felt like a physical weight upon her shoulders. Suddenly, the rhythmic thud of footsteps broke the silence behind her. They were deliberate and heavy. Aara lifted her chin. A towering figure emerged through the station's arched entryway. His leather boots struck the floor with a steady, commanding cadence. A lengthy duster of chestnut brown draped over his broad frame, and a weathered Stetson cast a deep shadow over his features. He possessed the aura of a man sculpted by the vast, unforgiving desert rather than one suited for a desolate train platform. The stranger paused near the ticket counter, momentarily surveying the vacant hall as if reading the very air. Then, his gaze pivoted toward her. Their eyes locked. Aara reflexively averted her sight. In her experience, encounters with strangers had never yielded anything but misfortune. However, the man didn't move on, he approached. Each stride was measured and brimming with quiet confidence. When he arrived at her bench, he came to a halt a few paces away. Aara could sense his presence radiating a sort of tranquil intensity, much like the stillness before a tempest. "It's a late hour to be keeping watch all by yourself," he remarked. His voice was a deep baritone, resonant but unexpectedly kind. Aara remained silent for a heartbeat, then whispered, "The train has gone." The man gave a slow nod of acknowledgement. "I suspected as much." He glanced briefly at her small suitcase. "Traveled quite a distance?" "Not anymore," she replied, her voice trailing off. The man scrutinized her face for a moment, his expression shifting subtly as if he were deciphering the subtext of her short answer. "My name is Rowan Hail." Aara hesitated, her voice barely audible. "Aara." For a brief interval, a heavy silence fell between them. Outside, the wind whistled across the darkened thoroughfare. From somewhere in the distance, the lonely bark of a dog echoed. Rowan shifted his weight, leaning against the sturdy timber pillar that supported the roof. There was supposed to be someone here to receive you. It wasn't a question, it was a realization. Aara swallowed hard, her throat tight. Yes. They didn't show. She shook her head slowly, the weight of the rejection returning. Rowan stayed quiet. He didn't offer the empty platitudes of pity, nor did he pry for a detailed account of her misfortune. This peculiar display of respect made her feel more secure than any forced words of comfort could have. Then, an unexpected sound broke the tension. A high-pitched voice drifted from the station's threshold. "Daddy!" A second voice chimed in immediately. "Daddy, where'd you go?" Aara looked up in surprise. Two tiny girls burst into the station, their hair a chaotic mess of brown curls and their eyes shimmering with inquisitive light. They couldn't have been more than 5 years old. They sprinted directly toward Rowan. "Daddy, we woke up. Grandpa said you were down here." Rowan dropped to one knee, spreading his arms wide. The twins collided with him, wrapping their small arms around his neck in a fierce embrace. Aara watched the scene from the periphery, and for the first time that evening, a glimmer of warmth touched her spirit. This rugged cowboy was not a solitary soul in the world. Rowan stood up, hoisting a girl onto each hip. "You two were supposed to be fast asleep. We tried. But Lila kicked me," one complained. "I did not," the other retorted. Rowan let out a low, genuine chuckle. The sound was rich and honest. Then, his attention shifted back to Aara. The twins instinctively followed his line of sight, their eyes widening as they processed the sight of the lonely woman on the bench. Children, Aara realized, often have a sharper intuition for sorrow than adults do. The girl named Mira leaned in and whispered, "Daddy, she looks really sad." Aara felt a flush of embarrassment creep up her neck and looked back at her boots. But the other twin, Senna, took a courageous step forward. "Hello." Aara blinked, startled by the directness. "Hello." Senna tilted her head to the side, studying her. "Why are you sitting here all by yourself?" Aara faltered, searching for words. I'm just waiting for the morning." The twins exchanged a confused look. Rowan watched the interaction with a contemplative gaze. Finally, he spoke in a measured tone. "Girls, go wait by the door for a second." The children obeyed, though they kept their eyes glued to Aara as they retreated. Rowan moved closer to the bench. He seemed to be weighing something significant in his mind. Then, he leaned in slightly and spoke the words that would dismantle her reality. "My daughters are in need of a mother like you." Aara went rigid. The statement felt like a fragment of a dream, entirely detached from her current misery. She slowly raised her eyes to meet his. Rowan wasn't jesting. His face was a mask of solemn sincerity. "You don't even know who I am," Aara whispered, her voice trembling with disbelief. Rowan glanced back at his daughters. Sometimes, it doesn't take a lifetime to recognize the character of a person's heart. Aara felt a sudden constriction in her chest. Never in her life had someone spoken to her with such unearned conviction. But the proposition was madness. She shook her head firmly. "You shouldn't make such declarations to a stranger." Rowan straightened his posture, his eyes unwavering. "I don't make a habit of saying things I don't mean." The station lapsed back into silence, filled only by the rising howl of the wind outside. Aara looked over at the twins by the door. They were huddled together, whispering and casting curious glances her way. For a fleeting, surreal moment, she allowed herself to imagine what it would be like to be part of a circle like that. Then, fear, her oldest companion, returned. Life had conditioned her to be wary of sudden grace. "You should head home," she said softly. Rowan studied her guarded expression. "And where will you go, Aara?" She had no answer. That was the void she had been staring into all night. Rowan adjusted his hat, pulling the brim lower. Come and meet them properly. Aara hesitated, but there was a magnetic gentleness in his tone that made refusal feel like a mistake. She stood up on shaky legs. The twins beamed as they saw her approaching. Just talk to them, Rowan encouraged from behind her. Aara knelt down to bring herself to the girl's level. Hello again. Mira grinned, her gap-toothed smile bright. You look much nicer when you're closer. Senna added with a serious nod, Daddy likes you. Aara shot a look of pure shock back at Rowan. He simply folded his arms across his chest, offering no denial. The twins stepped closer, invading her personal space with the ease of children. Do you like horses? Aara found herself laughing softly. Yes, I do. Daddy has a lot of them. 3. 4. Maybe even 5. Their voices, bubbling with excitement, finally filled the hollow space of the station. For the first time that night, Aara forgot the weight of the suitcase and the sting of the closed door. Rowan observed the scene with a softening in his eyes. Sometimes, the heart identifies a truth that the mind is still too frightened to accept. Rowan Hail had reached his conclusion, but Aara was unaware that the most challenging chapter of her journey was only just beginning. Outside, the wind whipped dust across the gravel roads. Inside the quiet terminal, the twins prattled on as if Aara were an old friend. Mira stepped in close, looking up with wide, shimmering eyes. Do you live here at the station? Aara shook her head slowly. No, I don't. Senna tilted her head. Then where do you live? The question cut deeper than the child could possibly know. Aara paused, the words catching in her throat. I'm still searching for my home. The twins looked puzzled, but they didn't press her. Rowan, standing a few paces off, watched how Aara listened with genuine patience. He saw the sharp lines of sorrow on her face dissolve whenever the girls laughed. It told him everything he needed to know. Girls, it's well past your bedtime, Rowan intervened. But we aren't even a little bit sleepy, they protested in unison. Rowan gave them a look that was both stern and loving. You'll feel differently when the sun comes up. The girls giggled. Then Mira turned back to Aara. Are you coming home with us? Aara felt the air leave her lungs. The sheer innocence of the invitation made the reality of the situation crash down. Rowan spoke before she could find her voice. She might. The twins erupted in tiny cheers. Good. Our house is huge, and Grandpa makes the best sweet bread. Aara felt a conflicting surge of warmth and terror. The offer was the kindest thing she'd ever heard, but experience had taught her that kindness was often a facade for hidden costs. Rowan, sensing the internal battle raging behind her eyes, spoke quietly. You don't have to make a permanent choice tonight. Aara looked at him, searching for the catch. Then why even ask me? Because, Rowan said, his voice dropping to a low, steady rumble, my daughters deserve someone who truly sees them, not just someone who tolerates their presence. Those words struck a chord deep in Aara's soul. She had spent her life in foster homes and working for families where she was a ghost, someone to be tolerated, but never truly wanted. She looked at the twins, who had now started a game with a copper coin on the dusty floor. Their laughter was the only music in the room. Their mother passed away 3 years ago, Rowan said. His voice was steady, but the shadow of grief was unmistakable. Aara remained silent, letting him speak. I tried to do it all. I thought being strong meant doing everything on my own. He looked at his girls. But strength isn't enough for them. They need warmth. They need a heart. Aara understood that more than she could put into words. My father helps out, and the ranch hands are good men, Rowan continued, but they aren't what the girls are missing. He paused. They need someone who will love them. The station lights gave one final, violent flicker. Aara crossed her arms. "You don't know me, Rowan." "I know enough," he replied. "How can you possibly trust me?" Rowan took a moment, his gaze fixed on the darkness outside. "Because people who carry a light in their soul can't truly hide it, no matter how much they try to dim it." Aara looked away, the compliment feeling like a weight. The twins suddenly rushed back, grabbing at her coat. "Daddy, can she please come?" Rowan looked directly at Aara. "That is entirely up to her." Mira took Aara's hand. "Please." Senna whispered, "You don't look like you're supposed to be all by yourself." That was the final blow to Aara's defenses. She turned her head quickly, blinking back the moisture in her eyes. Rowan saw, but he remained silent, offering her the dignity of her emotions. After a long, shaky breath, Aara finally asked, "What happens if I say yes?" "Then you come to the ranch," Rowan answered honestly. "You stay as long as you find comfort there. If you decide it's not for you, I'll personally drive you wherever you need to go. No questions asked." Aara searched his face for a lie, a flicker of something sinister, but there was nothing but steady, calm resolve. This was a man who didn't play games with people's lives. Still, the choice was staggering. She had spent a lifetime surviving on her own. Trusting a stranger was a door she had kept locked and bolted. The twins waited. Rowan waited. Finally, she spoke. "Just for tonight." The girls gave a muffled cheer. Rowan gave a single, sharp nod. "That's plenty." The small group moved toward the exit. Outside, the night air was crisp, and the sky was a velvet tapestry of brilliant stars. A sturdy black pickup truck sat idling by the curb. The twins scrambled into the back, their energy finally beginning to wane. Rowan opened the passenger door for Aara. She hesitated at the threshold, realizing this was the moment her old life ended. "You can still walk away," Rowan reminded her softly. Aara climbed into the seat. "No. I think I've already taken the first step." The engine rumbled to life. As they pulled away from the station, Aara watched the lonely yellow lights fade into the distance. For the first time in years, she was heading toward a destination she couldn't map out, but the fear was absent. Sometimes, destiny doesn't arrive with a fanfare, it arrives with the sound of boots on a station floor. The truck moved steadily through the dark fields. Inside the cabin, the twins succumbed to sleep, their heads lolling against each other. Aara watched them, struck by how easily they trusted the world. "They fall fast," Rowan noted. "It means they feel safe," Aara whispered. "That's the one thing I protect above all else," Rowan replied. They turned onto a long, unpaved road, eventually reaching a massive timber gate. Rowan hopped out to swing it open before driving through. In the distance, a sprawling ranch house glowed with welcoming light. Aara was stunned, it was far more impressive than she had envisioned. Rowan parked and carefully gathered one sleeping child. Aara instinctively reached for the other. The small girl felt warm and heavy against her, trust evident in the way she didn't even stir. Rowan caught the look on Aara's face and felt a sense of rightness. Inside, an older man with silver hair sat at the kitchen table. He looked up from his paper. "You found them?" "Yes," Rowan said, then gestured to Aara. "This is Aara." The older man, Gideon, studied her with a mix of curiosity and seasoned caution. "Welcome." They tucked the girls into their beds, a room filled with the vibrant drawings of children's dreams. As Aara pulled the quilts up, she felt a strange pull toward this life. Back in the kitchen, Gideon offered her a cup of tea. "Planning on staying a while?" he asked. Aara looked at Rowan, then back at the tea. "Just for tonight." Gideon smiled slightly, noticing the way his son was looking at her. "Well," the old man said, "this ranch has always had plenty of room for good souls. The house grew quiet as the night deepened. Outside, the horses shifted in their stalls. A new chapter had begun, though none of them knew the trials the coming days would bring. But for now, as the sun began to peek over the horizon the next morning, Aara felt a glimmer of something she hadn't felt in a very long time. As the golden light hit the fields, she watched the horses move like ghosts through the mist. A soft knock came at her door. It was the girls, ready to show her their world. Breakfast was filled with the sounds of a family, a sound Aara realized she had been craving her entire life. Rowan led them to the barn, introducing her to the horses. One, a gentle creature named Stormlight, leaned into Aara's touch immediately. Most horses are wary of strangers, Rowan remarked, watching her. He seems to know you. Maybe he just feels safe, Aara said softly. Rowan looked at her, the word echoing between them. As the twins ran through the hay, laughing and playing, Aara looked toward the hills. She hadn't planned for this, but as she showed the girls how to gently hold a rescued rabbit, she realized that home wasn't a place she had been looking for, it was a feeling she had just found. And as Rowan and Gideon watched from the shadows of the porch, they knew that the empty space in their lives had finally been filled.